This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices fell on Friday as traders looked toward weaker demand in the U.S., the world's largest oil market, and a boost in supply this autumn from OPEC and its allies. Brent crude futures for October delivery, which expired on Friday, settled at $68.12 a barrel, down 50 cents, or 0.73%. The more active contract for November finished down 53 cents, or 0.78%, at $67.45. West Texas Intermediate crude futures settled at $64.01, down 59 cents, or 0.91%. Crude output has increased from the OPEC Plus as the group has accelerated output hikes to regain market share, raising the supply outlook and weighing on global oil prices.
Indian refiners boosted U.S. crude oil purchases this month, drawn by competitive prices, trade sources said, a move that could help narrow the country's trade deficit with the United States amid tensions between the two nations. The country's top refiner, Indian Oil Corp., has bought 5 million barrels of U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude for delivery in October and November via a tender, trade sources said. This came after another state refiner, Bharat Petroleum Corp., purchased 2 million barrels of U.S. WTI crude, while private refiner Reliance Industries has bought 2 million barrels of WTI crude from Vitol, other sources said.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
European Union countries are considering imposing stricter requirements on companies to prove where the gas they import is produced, as part of the bloc's plan to phase out Russian imports, a document seen by Reuters showed. The European Commission last month proposed legislation to phase out EU imports of Russian oil and gas by January 1, 2028, as Brussels seeks to sever its decades-old energy relations with Russia following its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Without giving specific detail, the latest draft of the negotiating proposal, seen by Reuters, showed countries are considering requirements for importers to provide more documentary proof to national authorities that their fuel is not Russian.
China is seeking to buy more Russian gas through an existing pipeline as talks between the two countries have failed to make progress on building a second link, thwarting Moscow's quest for new outlets, two industry sources told Reuters. Energy is expected to be high on the agenda when Russian and Chinese leaders Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping meet in China next week. A breakthrough on the $13.6 billion Power of Siberia 2 pipeline project to supply 50 billion cubic meters of gas to China's northwest during the visit is unlikely, however, the sources said. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Copper prices hit a 5-week high on Friday, on track to end August with 3% growth, on expectations of a cut to U.S. interest rates and increased demand in September. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange was 1.0% higher at $9,914 a metric ton by 1600 GMT after touching its highest since July 25 at $9,918. Part of it is because the dollar is a bit weaker. But there has also been some strong data recently, such as upward revision of U.S. second quarter GDP growth, said Dan Smith at Commodity Market Analytics.
China's biggest listed steelmaker, Baoshan Iron and Steel County, said on Friday it expected the country's total steel exports to stay above 100 million metric tons in 2025. Bao Steel, a subsidiary of state-owned China Baowu Steel Group, reported on Wednesday an annual increase of 7.4% in first-half net profit, despite soft domestic demand, but warned of protectionist pressure in the months ahead.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Chicago Board of Trade corn futures firmed on Friday on support from strong international demand, concerns over disease in the U.S. Midwest and technical support, analysts said. Soybeans ended higher on technical trading, though a lack of Chinese demand for U.S. supplies hung over the oilseed market. Wheat headed higher under technical support. Traders were adjusting positions at the end of the month and before a long weekend in the United States, where financial markets will be closed on Monday for the Labor Day holiday. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.